Hello, hello, hello. I'm Lyndon Thorpe. This is Our Way, Our Wealth. I'm here every weekend to bring you up to date with what's happening from my side of the fence. And yes, it's been a great week, busy week, very busy week. We had the Worthy Woman Summit, and I spoke at that. And we've been launching new campaigns, and there's never a dull moment. But welcome to LinkedIn members and to YouTubers. We're streaming to both of those today. So yes, I've been busily working on various schemes and projects, but really I've been very delighted this week by the reaction to my latest book, which is called Your Body is Your Business Plan, Avoid Burnout. I wrote this because so many people around me were concerned about burnout and terrified, really, that it would creep up on them, as it does. And I'm afraid burnout is such a dis-ease that it does creep up on you without you realizing. And then it's too late, really, to stop it. It has to run its course, which can be terribly painful and very long-winded. So, could take a good year for you to recover. And you'll never again have the same passion for being a workaholic or being a screen gazer for all your waking hours, etc. So it's particularly important for online business owners, for entrepreneurs, for all of us who use the internet. And it's something that can be totally avoided. Imagine that. Yeah. I've found a way to avoid it entirely. And I've written a book about it. And this book is really causing quite a stir. It's the first of three books, actually. It's a gateway book, so it's a very simple kind of introduction, really. There are two more hefty volumes on the way. And so, yes, I've been spreading it around and getting people interested in it. And one of my admirers, who's someone called Warren Graham, who's a curator of books and reading, has a huge reading circle, and he recommends books, contacted me in very glowing terms about the book, saying, if my body were a business plan right now, the investors would have pulled out after too much coffee and not enough yoga. So this guy, Warren Graham, has a good sense of humor. He writes in a very boisterous way, and he said some wonderful things about the book. And I'll just share with you a little bit more of what he said, because it's so wonderful to get such praise. Yeah. He says, Lyndon, I keep thinking about how you managed to fuse desert initiations, Japanese contemplative wisdom, and embodiment science into a book that literally declares your body is the business plan. Honestly, part of me is still laughing at how simple yet brilliant that is. Because if my body were a business plan right now, the investors would have already pulled out after too much coffee and not enough yoga. So that's the context of the little quotation I made. Yes, and he goes on very passionate to say, but here's the thing, I can't shake the thought that your book deserves to land in the hands of readers who actually leave words behind, not just whispers. And so then he invites me to have his reviewers look at it. Yes, I'm now negotiating that with him. And he goes on even further. Imagine this. You survive the South Australian desert, get initiated by elders, carry decades of Japanese contemplative practice in your bones, transmit sacred custodial teachings through words, and even manage to slip easy, happy, sexy into respectable spiritual literature. Easy, Happy, Sexy is the name of one other book I wrote 5 years ago, which is about my time living with Aboriginals in the South Australian desert. And it's really a modern day fable about how what they called word fellas, in other words, us, the developed people of the world, how they turned their back on the lands and on the earth. Since I spent time with them and saw their perspective, their incredible perspective on the way we have developed the world and the damage we have done, along with some of the good things, then, my life took a different course altogether. And so it's really important to understand that I've come through various traditions, indigenous wisdom, the Buddhist teachings. I've been a Buddhist most of my life, although born a Christian, and also body work. I've been adoring the human body for many years, working to re-educate the body through the Alexander technique, through Feldenkrais, through meditation, through mindfulness. And I really know that inside the body, we have all the answers to all the questions and all the solutions to all the problems we could ever need. They're all inside the wonders of the body, guided by the human spirit. Yeah. So, most of us start the day by checking a to-do list. But the body has been running its own all night, repairing tissue, refreshing memory, balancing hormones. The real projections, the real forecasts live right under your skin. Yeah, and Warren asked me to tell him, if readers could embody just one thing tomorrow, what would it be in my book? So I wrote, I'd want it to be this. Place your hand over your heart, breathe slowly for 90 seconds, and feel that life, that life that never stops working for you. That's the true business plan. Yeah, if we all treated our body as our business plan, then we can imagine what the balance sheet would show today. Yeah, we have got so far away from the body, many of us. We are distant and isolated from the body. And really, if we're going to be able to survive and be truly happy, which I believe is our moral duty as human beings, our lives are short, comparatively short, and we owe it to ourselves to be truly happy, to be truly engaged to be truly satisfied with our existence. So I'm now writing a second book because I've become very interested in EQ, which is the darling of the business theory world at the moment, and EI, emotional intelligence. So it seems the focus is on the emotions in workplaces, among entrepreneurs, among business owners, and so on. But actually, this is a house of cards. Yeah, EQ, EI. They're a house of cards because measuring emotions will never, ever work. Okay. We live in an age of beautiful dashboards, corporate offices glowing with engagement scores, HR teams cheering when things like sentiment and kindness have their boxes ticked, and apps that tenuously promise to read feelings from our faces and voices. It seems like a very simple and seductive message. In other words, if we can measure emotions, we can manage them. We can then optimize empathy, coach away burnout, and engineer resilience. Does it sound familiar? Well, I have to tell you that this message is so wildly wrong. It's deeply and dangerously wrong. Because emotions are not objects waiting to be counted. They are lived currents, shifts of breath, changes in heartbeat, tensions in the belly, and movements of attention that sweep through a body and a life. To pin them to a number is to mistake the ripple of the sea, the rush to quantify feelings, to turn sorrow, devotion, shame, and awe into a stream of metrics is simply one of the greatest distractions of all time. It distracts us from the one work that might actually heal the epidemic we call burnout. And that is interior attention. There are three problems with our measurement obsession. First, measurement flattens everything. When feeling is translated into a score, it loses context. The cultural script that frames it, the history of the person who is feeling it, the body that carries it. A single engagement number cannot possibly tell you whether someone is exhausted from grief, angry about an injustice, or quietly resisting performative culture. And yet, organizations act on those numbers all the same. An HR dashboard becomes a policy instrument. A low score can lead to an unwarranted intervention or a missed opportunity for human tenderness. Two, the second reason that measurement obsession is fallible. Second, the instruments change the thing they aim to measure. People learn to game metrics. We've all seen lie detector tests and how people can cheat. They learn the behaviors that yield the desirable score. So when we prioritize measurable empathy, we train performative empathy. When we prioritize measurable empathy, we're actually training performative empathy. We create the illusion of care and starve actual presence. What was once a genuine faculty of feeling can atrophy like an unused muscle. And basically, yes, on Friday we had Lodestone Q&A, and my colleague Ebby Sheila was with me, and we had a very long conversation about the notion of presence. This is also a very fashionable notion among coaches and workers and entrepreneurs and so on. So yes, presence is not a performance, and it's not something we can generate. It's very natural, and it comes from within. And it's the same with our feelings. They are within, and they are invisible. You cannot count things that are invisible. So this is the big fallacy about this trend towards measuring emotions, EQ. Thirdly, the techno fix is ethically precarious. So using technology to do this is really not on. Companies now sell emotion AI algorithms that claim to read feelings from faces, speech, or subtle psychological cues. Such systems aggravate messy, culturally bound signals and pretend they are universal truths. And the result is biased, brittle technology whose mistakes can be catastrophic. Misreadings that lead to wrongful assessments, workplace surveillance that corrodes trust, and a marketplace that profits from people's interior lives. So these are three strong problems against the measurement obsession. Measuring emotions is really just a huge distraction. It's distracting people who are already living in their limited mind, in the tool of their mind, trying to live their lives through that tool. They're already distracted, but this kind of measurement of emotions takes them even further away from their inner life and from the inner solutions and the inner answers to questions, all of which we have already inside us, as I started out by saying. So it's the biggest distraction of all, and I feel so surprised and shocked, really, that people fall for it. The whole companies and corporations are falling for this EQ lark. So, I'm not rejecting science. No, not at all. I'm simply asking simple questions about this. I'm not asking leaders to abandon their evidence. I'm asking only that they stop confusing measurement for knowing or with knowing. Modern effective science itself is in flux. Researchers disagree about whether emotions are hardwired circuits, culturally constructed narratives, or dynamic processes of the brain and body. Neuroscience shows that feelings are deeply embodied. Interoception, the brain's sense of the internal state of the body, is central to how we feel. And Antonio Damasio's work on somatic markers and contemporary research on bodily awareness point plainly to this truth. Feelings arise first as signals in the body, and only later as categories we apply with our minds. So, those who inhabit the limited mind and who lead the trends that we follow like sheep are really, they are destroying any hope of people becoming embodied. As I've just said, feelings arise first as signals in the body. You know that. If you're scared, you'll feel your heart racing. If you're disappointed, you'll feel something in the base of your stomach or your abdomen. If you're excited, you'll feel a fluttering in your chest, maybe, or in your eyes. These are signals. We've given them names and labels, as usual. Everything has to be visual. Everything has to be provable. But in reality, if we could only be honest with ourselves and with each other, a huge portion of our lives are invisible. They're not positioned in the visual field at all. Feelings, signals from the body, sensations in the body, spiritual feelings, awe, having goose pimples when you see a beautiful structure, or when somebody professes to love you, that deep feeling of passion and gratitude. These are all invisible. Give them labels because we're obsessed with words and images, and we are in the business of acquiring them. We are hoarders of words and images, and now we're starting to hoard measurements of things which could never ever be measured. If a signal is bodily, then the remedy must be embodied. Doesn't that make sense? If your body is showing you a signal, then the limited mind between your ears will never solve that problem or address that need or signal. Never. The body, the nervous system, the various nervous systems, the endocrine system, all the systems that work together to create the miracle of the human body, which is 100% evolved now. Those systems provide all the solutions, all the answers in the body, not in the interpretation of the limited mind. So we're interpreting bodily signals which can never be turned into words and images. So yes, if you get a signal in your body, a pain in your neck, cramp in your foot, a pain in your lower abdomen, then the body will provide the remedy for that, not the mind. Never, not the limited mind. So we need practices, we need spaces and organizational rhythms that help people return to their internal sense-making. We need to rebuild the cultural muscles of simple presence, the capacity to notice breath, to sit with discomfort, to listen without immediately translating feeling into action or a KPI. These are not soft extras. They are prevention. They are leadership. We are in a digital era with AI on the rise, and all the systems we're using emanate from the limited mind between the ears, and that will never work. We need systems that come from the body, that are born in the body and are guided by the spirit and the unlimited mind. Now, you may raise an eyebrow when you hear that phrase, unlimited mind, but in my spiritual training, my life training, I've lived mostly in the unlimited mind. And I stray away from the limited mind as much as I can. I use it as a tool, like a pencil, like a phone. And then when I finish my task, I put it down and I go back into my body, into my unlimited mind, into my spirit. And it's heavenly by comparison. Yeah. The limited mind is a brilliant tool. Don't get me wrong. I am not knocking it, but I am saying that the unlimited mind is something very wonderful, extremely wonderful. I'm just getting a wonderful message here from one of our audience members, Amb Christ Nyembo. Welcome to our body, our way, our wealth, ambassador, I guess. Thank you. He's saying this is a powerful presentation. Thank you so much. I hope to engage with you later about this. Well, just to finish off my session here, we need practices that and spaces and organizational rhythms that help us to return to our internal sense making. We need to rebuild the cultural muscles of simple presence, of being here and now with the breath. They're not soft extras. They're prevention, and they are the new leadership. Imagine, instead of a quarterly engagement spike, which people seem to be obsessed with, a weekly 12-minute practice in which teams begin by checking in with their breathing and naming one thing they feel in the body. Imagine boardrooms that build silence into meetings so people can notice when grief or fatigue surfaces. Imagine leadership development that teaches interoceptive awareness alongside conflict resolution. These are the kinds of low-tech, high-impact interventions that cannot be summarized by a single index. And this is precisely the point. If you do run an organization, briefly, and I'll continue with this tomorrow, there are 3 immediate shifts you can make today. Number 1, stop using single-point scores as definitive judgments. 2, create brief, embodied rituals. 3, question technology that claims to read emotions. This work is political and spiritual, and it's going to challenge profit-driven architecture that prizes scale and sureness over interior truth. I'm so passionate about this. I'll be carrying on tomorrow with this. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be really delighted if you put them in the comment box below this window. And I'd be delighted, even more delighted, if you join me again tomorrow. And I will continue on with my premises about the measurement of emotions. Thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you very much to Ambassador Christ Niembo. Thank you so much for coming. And I hope we can continue this a little later. Thank you. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Bye for now.